Okay, there's the music, and here we go. I'm glad it's not the last time we're going to hear that music for the year because the Eagles won. We're going to the NFC Championship game, by the way, for the 8th time since 2002. It's quite a tribute to Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman and the organization that the Eagles have become over the last 25 years. But let me introduce myself, Ken Dunek, ex-tight end for the Philadelphia Eagles, host of the Bird Brains with Ken and Mark. My partner is the longtime beat writer for NJ.com and Trenton Times, Mark Eckel. And Mark, is there anything more cool than a snow game? I mean, my wife was watching the game with me, and she said, why don't they have an indoor stadium? I said, this is why. This is the home field advantage. This is perfect. The people out there were reveling in the cold. I'm too old for that. I'm not doing that anymore. If it's not in a suite and 65 degrees, I'm not going, but I applaud the people that do. It's probably pretty fun to watch. Oh, by the way, you're probably depressed. I hear there's going to be a high of 32 in North Myrtle Beach this week, so that's just –
a little weather.
Nobody here is going to feel the least bit sorry for you.
I told my wife, if it's going to be this cold –
you're going to move back?
No, I may as well go back north and have good pizza.
There you go. Is there no good pizza in North Myrtle Beach?
I thought there's one.
Okay. Well, that's all it takes. How many are you going to eat at one time?
And I found him. He's from Jersey, obviously.
Right. So
he knows how to make good. There's one. I found one. The rest of it, I've been told of other places, but I go and I'm like, I'll say it's good for here.
That's not pizza. So let me mention a few people here. Number one, we're sponsored by Gateway Mortgage. Our good friend Chris Wilhelm. If you have a mortgage need, please contact Chris at 856-810-1222. That's Chris Wilhelm at 856-810-1222. We're recording our podcast at the Sweet Recording Studios in Mount Laurel. Contact Joe Gangemi at sweetrecording.com. If you have an idea for a podcast, is a great place to do it. And Jersey Man Magazine, the January issue is out. It's for free on our website, jerseymanmagazine.com. Go check it out. And before I dive into the Eagles, Mark, the 84 Philadelphia Stars were all brought together for the Philadelphia Sports Writers Dinner last week. It was an amazing experience seeing people for some of them I haven't seen for almost 40 years. And it was heartwarming. You know that, and as per normal, with teams, people are spread out all over the country. We had 57 people show up from the Stars family for this event, which kind of tells you the bond that the team had and how close we've remained over the years. So for everyone who reached out to me on Facebook and social media and said some nice things about the Stars, I wanted to thank you for chiming in. So, Mark,
we made the top 25
and we made it. Well, that's probably why they honored us, Mark. You put us in the top 25 of Philly sports moments. But Mark, give me your impressions of the game real quick before we go into detail.
I'm glad you brought up the snow, and how I enjoyed it too. And I told my wife, he's becoming a football fan. Let's say that. I'll say that in the 6 years we've been together.
Wow, she's not a football fan, and you guys got married. That's true love. That is true love.
Nothing. But I said, when I mean she knew nothing.
Wow.
Now she's learning a little. Anyway.
Well, if she wants to learn, you're a good guy to marry.
Yeah, I guess. Well, I guess.
I'll ask her next time.
Yeah, good. But I told her, I said, this is going to be fun. I said, there's supposed to be like a blizzard in Philly. And when the game came on, she's like, there's no
nothing.
blizzard.
Right? Nothing. Yeah.
So anyway, we're watching it. She's like, wow. And she was like, look at this. They're sliding. And the guys, when they're doing the snow angels in the end.
Right.
I see a lot of people, some who I respect, saying, this isn't good for the game. It's not, you're not getting the players' best efforts and they shouldn't play a game. I disagree. I mean,
that's football. Football is meant to be played in the elements. I mean, I don't want to go sit out in that anymore, but I'm certainly more than happy to watch it from my TV, and it does make for compelling television and competition.
Players seem to love it.
They didn't seem to mind it.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, even after that, no, I'm with. So you're with me that yes, play. You don't. It's not baseball where if it rains you have to rain it out. I understand that's sport, but no, I don't think there should be domes everywhere where you play. No, right?
Don't you remember back in the '60s when because I'm from Chicago, Wrigley Field, there used to be a mud pit and Gale Sayers running through the slop with puddles. It's, that football. I understand. Now, I've played indoors and outdoors. Obviously, indoors on artificial turf, it's a fast track. And you really, although there's a greater incidence of injury when you're playing AstroTurf, it makes you faster. So as from a product standpoint, you probably are getting a better product in the pristine conditions of an indoor stadium. But man, outdoors in the elements, there's just there's a poetry to it that's it's almost hard to
I
explain.
covered the Fog Bowl, talking about Chicago.
Yeah, I remember watching
That's
that game.
one game that they maybe could have had a delay.
They probably should have had a delay because Merrill Reese couldn't even tell who the players were down there.
They let us on the field, which they never let the writers on the field. They let us,
During the game?
yeah,
Because you couldn't see it. Because you couldn't see anything. That's interesting.
It was like they had painted the glass. They had painted the glass white. You couldn't see it. Even on the field, though, we were on whatever sideline we were on. You couldn't. I mean, you could make out a guy running the ball, but I didn't know if it was Thomas Sanders or Walter Payton, or Keith. You couldn't tell numbers. You certainly couldn't see numbers.
Yeah,
it was that game. Probably that's the one game that I'll say, because an hour later the fog lifted and it was clear as can be. But anyway, let's get back to the Eagles going to the.
So I'm going to avoid Philly Sports Talk Radio today, primarily because I don't want to hear people complaining that Jalen Hurts only passed for 128 yards. We did the exact game plan, especially due to the weather, that it took to win that ball game. We've got the greatest offensive weapon in football. Now, listen, I understand that he's probably not going to win the MVP. There is no player more valuable to their team than Saquon Barkley is to the Eagles. He's an absolute difference maker. He had two touchdown runs, one of 62 yards and one of 78 yards yesterday. He had over 205 yards, over 200 yards, 205 exactly, rushing with two touchdowns. He's somebody that you want to hang your hat on if you're the Kellen Moore, the Eagles play caller, and that's exactly what they did.
Oh yeah, and Hurts again. I don't care if he passed for 37 yards.
15 for 20. He was efficient.
He did what he had to do. Played hurt too. He was hurt.
That when he bent his knee backwards, that was scary. That was scary. And the fact that he bounced up as quickly as he did was kind of surprising to me.
I thought for sure Pickett was coming in.
Yeah.
I really. He looked. Now I'm hoping. And again, I'll defer to you because you actually played. Sometimes it gets worse the next day, right?
It does. And I think if you watch the press conference after the game, he's a little bit concerned. They asked him how his knee was. He goes, well, I finished the game. And he's going to be sore today. And hopefully there'll be a light workload for him until later in the week when he can get that stretched out. But the fact that he was able to stay in the game and play as well as he did. One of the things that I found interesting was that they didn't put the guardrails on Hurts. As a matter of fact, the first touchdown run he had was for 44 yards, and it was a quarterback counter. So they were going to run him in that game, and they did.
No, Hurts. I thought Hurts played. I don't care. Again, I'm not as big stats, and yards to me never mean anything. I learned that from Jim Johnson, the old Eagles coordinator. We used to talk a lot, and he would say, "I don't care how many yards we get. I really don't. I care about how many points we allowed, how many sacks we get, and how many turnovers." That's what I got. We can give up 600 yards.
We won the turnover battle 2-0 yesterday, and that's always the biggest stat. I would agree. Hey, for NFL Coach of the Year, we're going to play Washington. We're going to talk about that a little bit. I have 2 votes. My first vote is for Dan Quinn to bring Washington to this level. My second vote is for Jeff Stoutland, the Eagles offensive line coach, who it's amazing. How do these guys that pull the quarterback counter, Mulata pulled all the way across the formation, and it was such a big hole. He couldn't find anybody to hit. And Hurts just walked into the end zone. I mean, the schemes that Stoutland and Kellen Moore are able to come up with for this offensive line are amazing. Absolutely. I thought when they lost Kelsey, they might lose a little bit of athleticism on the offensive line. They haven't done it. These kids are great.
No, I can't. Why can't I think of his name? Who's playing center now?
Dickerson.
No, Dickerson.
Oh, Jurgens. I'm sorry, Jurgens. Cam Jurgens.
Nebraska.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, it's and it's hard to take over for a guy like Kelsey,
For
right?
a
I mean,
legend, yeah.
not just because of how the player, but like he's a legend. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I want to be the guy after you hit like is. I don't want to be the guy that takes over for Kelsey. I want to be the guy that takes over for the guy that took over for Kelsey.
Right.
It's a little easier. But no, you're right. They haven't missed. I hate to say it, they don't miss Kelsey a little bit.
Yeah.
They really don't.
And Kelsey, there was talk that he was playing so well last year, he might try to squeeze another year out of it, but he probably would have had to take a pay cut.
Whatever happened to him? I never see him anywhere.
Kelsey?
Yeah, I never
But then
see
you
him.
don't watch TV because he's in every commercial and every show
Yeah,
on
he's on every
ESPN.
commercial, every show, every.
You
My
know,
goodness.
another thing about the weather is I really do think that the weather aided us because there were some drops by the Rams that were very uncharacteristic. I thought Stafford did an admirable job of getting the ball out in those conditions, but you saw guys like Higbee and Nakua drop balls and it's a totally different animal when you play receiver in pro football in the elements. For example, you're taught to catch the ball in your hands in regular conditions. You're taught never to let the ball hit your chest if you can avoid it. Now, there are sometimes you get caught in between. You can't do this, you can't do this, so you trap it. In bad weather, like we had yesterday, you should try to trap the ball into because it's going to skid right through your hands. And I thought L.A., being from L.A., who not used to playing in those kind of conditions, for the most part lately, a lot of those kids go to college in cold weather schools, but it's a real, you have to practice that. It's a real, and I thought that hurt him a bit yesterday.
Well, AJ Brown had a pretty bad drop as well.
Mm-hmm. By the way, what's up with AJ Brown? I mean, only what he had 7 targets yesterday. He had 7 targets, 2 catches for 14 yards. A little concerning. I thought he would have a bounce back game yesterday. That cost me a prop bet, by the way, and so did those 2 missed extra points. By the way, cost me. I had him at -6. That's a little bit disappointing for the retirement fund. But what do you think?
That, and I'm not a conspiracy theorist.
Oh, you don't think? Do you think the refs want
Oh,
Kansas City to
well,
win?
they own Kansas City. They're cheating.
Yeah.
No doubt about that. But, I'm starting to think the NFL has a little bit of WWE. I'm serious. That game was over. Barkley, even there's the dagger.
Right.
But Barkley scored on the whatever was the wrong run, and then
Yep.
28 to what was it, 27.
We went up by 13. Went up by 13.
Could have been 14. Oh, he missed the extra point. Right. It was 4 minutes to go, and now you're on your hands and knees at the end of the game.
I know.
You're at the 14-yard. Almost like, okay, we don't want it to be. But the Eagles still won, so it's like, all right, we'll let the Rams go down there and make it exciting, and nobody will turn TV off, and the Baltimore game, the same thing. I mean, it's just like it's almost like there's a script. I hate to say it,
but it's been going on forever. Listen, you get in the situation the Eagles were in. You got to play prevent. You got to play sticks defense and try to chew up the clock. Right? There's a sense of urgency on offense, because there's no margin for error and you have to get this stuff done, right? So they're in a hurry up, which actually the announcers alluded to this during the broadcast. They probably should have done that a little bit earlier because it looked like they had the Eagles on their heels a little bit. But there's a sense of urgency on offense. The defense is a little bit more flexed because they don't want to give up the big play. And that's why you see these comebacks over and over. It's really a chess game. Do we play tight and let them have a big score, or do we play loose, play sticks, and try to chew up the clock? If you play tight and let them score, you're in for a ton of criticism. If you play sticks and make them chew up the clock, at least there's a strategy there. And I think that's what the Eagles were caught in yesterday.
I understand what you're saying about the Rams went down and scored. Okay, so they cut it to 6.
Mm-hmm.
All the Eagles needed was a first down.
Right.
That's where I was concerned.
Mm-hmm.
The Eagles get the ball. All right, give it to Barkley 3 times and the game's over.
Yeah, they called a pass play. They tried to outsmart themselves again. That was a little concerning too, right?
3 times.
Mm-hmm.
Heck, give it to them 4 times if you have to.
Mm-hmm.
4th and 1. But
Eagles also looked they were trying to get away from the tush push a little bit yesterday. By the way, that was a huge play in the game. Lane Johnson is a false start. Fourth on the and one, you think it's going to be an automatic, and then the Eagles have to settle for a field goal. By the way, how concerned are you about Jake Elliott at this point?
well, he made all his field goals.
Mm-hmm.
I, maybe just go for two all the time.
Well, I
He
mean,
can't make extra points. If he would have missed one of the field goals, I'd be real concerned. But he made, he's never missed a playoff field goal.
I did not know that. Mm,
Playoffs.
yeah.
It's about 7 extra points, I think now.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's concerning. Let's
Gotta be
go.
now.
Let's go through the laundry list of some notes that I wrote down during the game. Jalen Carter, another big game. He is such a dominant force in the middle of that defensive line. He had 2 sacks. He had 1 strip sack that wound up as a big turnover for the Eagles. It's really encouraging to see how much he's raised his level of game in a year, isn't it? He's really an improved player.
Well, he was good last year. He was a rookie.
He was good, but he wasn't dominant good.
Very well. There's been a couple, but like I said last week, Jerome Brown, the rookie year, okay.
Right.
Came then the next year, you said, wow. So yeah, I see a lot of that. I mean, no, he dominated, and what the Rams. Sean McVay's a real good coach.
Oh, he's so good. He is so good.
A couple of times they left Carter one-on-one with a lineman, and that's when you got to double him. I mean, God bless him. But
yeah, but a lot of times those are missed assignments, and if the Eagles do a stunt, you get lost in the shuffle there. How about big play Slay yesterday? I thought his coverage at the beginning of the game, and then he had a big pass breakup at the end of the game. I thought he played pretty well yesterday as well.
yeah, I think didn't he get beat on one of the long ones late in the game?
I
He had a
don't.
good. I mean, yeah, almost the defense, except for that one drive, played really well. I thought.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go back to the reason they won the game, in my opinion, is they didn't turn the ball. This is 2 playoff games in a row now, where they forced turnovers, and they had none.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't care, Jalen. Like I said, I don't care how many yards he passes for. Another game where he didn't throw a pick,
Mm-hmm.
didn't fumble. He got hit hard a couple times and didn't fumble.
And in that weather, no turnovers in that weather. It's really obviously they're stressing ball control.
I wanted to look this up this morning, and I forgot. When he was with the Giants, I'm not going to say he was a fumbler, but he did put the ball on the ground.
He did. He did. It was a knock against him, absolutely. And
the one rap against him was he's a great back.
yeah.
He does fumble a little bit. He hasn't fumbled. He's been pretty secure.
Of course, it's easier to fumble when you're getting bounced around because you have no offensive line. So if you're getting hit 15 times. Oren Burks filling in for Nakobe Dean, I thought had a pretty good game. He had 6 tackles. He had 1 big pass deflection at the end of the game. He's pretty athletic. They said that he and Trotter were going to split time at the position. I didn't hear Trotter's name much, but Burks was pretty prevalent.
Yeah, I think that was the plan.
Mm-hmm.
And Burks was playing pretty well, so they just probably said, why mess with it, right?
Yeah, and I had heard earlier in the week that they needed both of those guys for special teams, and maybe Trotter took the brunt of the special teams snaps. I couldn't tell from
There was on special teams.
the Eagles punter Braden Mann yesterday, 49.8 yards per punt average in those elements. I thought he was a big weapon, and he continues to play well.
Well, man, not only did he punt well, he held well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, how about the last field goal you're talking about at the end of the game? Or was it a field goal or the extra point? Or it was kind of a wide snap, and he made a good hold on that.
We overlook kicking sometimes, like, this kicker would go out. But in those elements, the snap's got to be good, the hold's got to be, it's hard to snap a ball, I would think. It's hard on a long snapper in those elements, and the holder and the kick. So, I mean, no, man did a great job.
Do you know what I notice is different in the NFL as well? Do you see how dark that ball is now? These balls are broken in now. They're actually they're a little bit softer and tacky, to whereas back in the day they used to bring out brand new footballs, not treated with anything. There was a wax on them to where the quarterbacks used to skip the ball on the dirt, on the turf, to scuff them up a little bit so you could actually grab onto them. They look a little different. They look softer and tackier, and now they got the gloves that look like they have glue on them and the tacky ball. How can you not catch the ball? I could still catch the ball out there. I couldn't do anything with it once I caught it, but I could certainly still catch it. All right, let's talk about next week. We're going to play our rival, the Washington Commanders, in the NFC Championship game. Mark, you ever play poker? You ever play Hold'em? Okay, so sometimes you just get hit with the deck and you can't help but win, right? You catch an inside straights, you catch a flush on the river. I mean, everything's going your way. This season kind of feels like it's going that way for the Eagles. Now, Washington is an improved team, and Jaden Daniels is having one of the best rookie seasons at quarterback. They talk about C.J. Stroud last year. He's blowing C.J. Stroud's away.
Andrew Luck's the closest. I actually looked that up to see what rookie quarterbacks have had the kind of season that Daniels has had.
Right.
Andrew Luck comes the closest.
Had to be, I would say, Elway and Marino had to be up there. Although Marino didn't start his rookie year. David Woodley started.
Half the year.
Yeah.
And Elway wasn't good at all.
Uh-huh.
He was okay, but he wasn't Elway yet. Well, only 5. Here's one for you. So Daniels becomes the 6th rookie no rookie quarterback has ever gone to the Super Bowl. Ever.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, that goes for it. But 5 others have gone to an NFC Championship game.
Mm-hmm.
Lost. Rock Purdy to the Eagles a couple of years ago.
Right. Well, it's because the Eagles tore his arm off halfway through the game.
But Ben Roethlisberger.
Okay.
He had a good rookie year too, but not as good as Ben. He lost to New England the year that the Eagles played New England. He lost. Mark Sanchez.
Oh, that's shocking. Was that the year of the butt fumble, or was that the following year? I can't remember.
And he lost to Indianapolis. Sean King was another one. No one remembers him. 1999 for
Tampa Bay, yeah. Huh.
And the other one, Joe Flacco, Jersey Joe Flacco.
Oh, wow. So what you're saying is Jaden Daniels is having an historic year, but this is a big stage for a rookie. And now listen, this kid does not look like a rookie to me. Some of those throws, they go. I've got reasons why I like the Eagles next week, but I'm very cautious with this game. Number one, Detroit played admirably with a defense that was decimated by injuries. The fact that they played so well against Minnesota to attain that number 1 status, it was really a good performance. But they are a diminished defense with all these injuries. Washington exploited that. They weren't good against a running quarterback to begin with, and then Washington exploited the injury portion of the defense for the Lions. There's none of that this weekend. He's going to come into a hostile environment. The city's going to be all revved up. The team is playing right well, and both teams are playing well. This should be a really good game. I'm going to take the Eagles in this game. I don't think I'm going to lay the points. I'll probably take the money line because this looks like a game that could have a backdoor cover on it. I think the Eagles right now are between 5 and 6 point favorites. But it should be a really interesting game to watch. And I think the Eagles have played the Washington franchise something like 183 times, and this is only the second time that they've appeared in the playoffs together. So what do you think about the Eagles-Washington matchup?
Well, I'm afraid because I believe I'm 8-2 in playoff games. But the 2 I have wrong where I picked against Washington both times.
Oh.
I picked Tampa to beat them in the wild card.
So did I, and so did everybody else.
I've never been more wrong about a game in my life. I didn't think they had a chance. I didn't care about Detroit's defense. Yeah, I didn't care. I thought it was Washington's 3rd straight road game.
Yeah.
I'm big on
Detroit coming off a bye. They're rested. They're ready.
In a short week. The Lions rested, and I know they were hurt, but they were getting a couple guys came back. I didn't think Washington had a prayer in that game. But they showed me a lot to win that game. Now this is their 4th straight road game, but it's not that big of a road game. They don't have to get on a plane. They're going to take a
No,
train.
I mean the travel portion is not as bad, but it's a
What's off?
hostile environment they're coming into.
It wasn't real friendly.
Hmm.
Tampa wasn't real
Not like
friendly.
Philly, not like Philly in the cold, brother.
Well, the cold shouldn't bother Washington. They play. I
No,
mean,
no.
the weather. I don't. None of that bothers me as much as
Well,
just
the
that.
weather's not supposed to be that much of a factor. The long-term forecast is supposed to be relatively mild next week.
I think the Eagles just an experience factor, like you said. As great as Daniels is, um, every step is a step he hasn't seen before. And he's answering so far. Like I said, I'm afraid to pick. I'm afraid to pick the Eagles because that's every time I pick against Washington, they surprise me.
Well, you got to make a choice.
Oh, the Eagles will win.
Yeah. Okay.
Eagles
I agree. Let's flip over quickly to the AFC Championship. Another rematch. Buffalo is at Kansas City last year. If you remember, Kansas City went to Buffalo and beat them to go to the Super Bowl this year. It's flipped. Kansas City as the home game. If I had to rank the teams in order of who I think are the best football teams of the four, I would say Buffalo is first. I would say it's a coin flip between Kansas City and the Eagles, and I would put Washington last. That doesn't mean that I don't think any of those teams can win the Super Bowl because I think that all of them are capable of doing it. What do you think of the Buffalo-Kansas City matchup?
That's going to be a great game as
It
well.
really is.
I picked Buffalo to win the Super Bowl
Me too. Yeah.
before the season began, so I'm not going to change now. I've come this far. I mean, Kansas City's tough. They're tough. You got to. I know, and they get a lot of breaks. I'm not going to get
They
it.
do seem to get a lot of calls that go in their favor. That's for
Really
sure.
do. And Mahomes is Mahomes. I mean, the Bills better not let Mahomes have the ball down less than 7.
Hmm.
I don't care how much time. Well, the Bills saw it. They lost for 13 seconds to 1 year, right? So
Yes.
I just think Josh Allen, like what you said about Barkley, I
Hmm.
can say the same thing. If I'm a Bills fan, and I am a little bit of a Bills fan to be honest with you, I like a lot of the people in that organization. Some of the guys on the team I've gotten to know. Um, he's been willing them to win, and he didn't have a big numbers day yesterday.
Hmm.
Hurts, he only threw for 120 something yards, but he scored 2 touchdowns. He
Tell
made
you
every
what,
he had to make.
he's a man's man at quarterback. He sticks his nose in there like every time he does that, I'm thinking, oh, he's not going to get up from this one, and he bounces right
Yeah,
back up.
the other guy takes the worst hit. The guy that the defender the way Allen plays.
Right.
I think I'm looking forward to 2 really good games next week.
So Kansas City, I believe, is open as a small favorite in that game, 1.5. I love Buffalo, and here's the reason why. They had the perfect game plan against Lamar Jackson yesterday. They contained him. You're never going to stop him, but they did contain him. And Mahomes is the same type of quarterback, very elusive. He's a better clutch passer than Lamar Jackson is. He's got the championship DNA, which is always a factor. But I just think it's Buffalo's time. I just think that this franchise that has been knocking at the door for so many years, and of course, the heartbreak of the '90s with the late '80s and '90s with the Jim Kelly and 4 Super Bowl losses and everything. I just think similar to when the Cubs finally won the World Series and the Eagles finally broke through. I just think sometimes it's your year. I just have a feeling that the Buffalo is going to do it this year. I hope they don't do it against the Eagles in the Super Bowl, but I do think they win this game in advance.
You know what you brought up before? When I tell people, like everybody, like kind of mocks Buffalo. Oh, they lost 4 straight Super Bowls. You know how hard it is to get to 4 straight
Some
Super
people don't understand that. It's so hard to get there.
Bowls?
I was on a team that got there and we lost, right? We didn't have the beauty of playoff NFL football. It's a 1-game tournament, and the better team doesn't always win on any particular day. But it's to get to the Super Bowl takes so much work, and to go to 4 straight is just it's a cruel twist of fate that I hope that they're able to overcome eventually. If the Eagles are involved, obviously, I hope they do it next year. But that's our recap. Now, next week, win or lose, we will have some sort of a Bird Brains with Ken and Mark podcast. I will be traveling. I'm going to be a snowbird like Mark and go to a warm weather environment for a few days, and then I come back and then I go to another one. But we will have a podcast for you. It might be 2 remotes, but you'll get to look at our beautiful faces in a different way next week. So for my partner, Mark Eckel, this is Ken Dunek. Thanks for watching the Bird Brains, everybody, and we will see you next week. Go Eagles.